Good evening. Welcome to Council Chambers. Our apologies for the late start. Council, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? I'm going to ask for a waiver of procedural bylaw. We have 3 additional delegations tonight. We have Jamie Cole representing Aurora King Baseball with respect to the Hallmark lands, Martin Ambrose representing the Aurora Soccer Club with respect to the Hallmark lands, and Georgia Pottage, resident with respect to the update to the site control plan. Require a waiver of procedural bylaw, please, first. Councillors Tom and Humphreys, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. May I have a motion to move the agenda as amended then? Councillor? Yes, I know. Are you moving the agenda as amended, Councillor? Thank you. Councillor Thompson, second. Thank you. Comments or questions? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. May I have declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof, please? Seeing none, we'll move to community presentations. First up, Mr. Alan Dean, representing Sport Aurora School Athletes of the Year. Mr. Dean. Alan, you're on. If you could introduce yourself, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
Is this on?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Daw, members of council. Thank you on behalf of Sport Aurora for the opportunity to recognise outstanding young athletes attending the school system in Aurora. Each athlete was selected and named by the school for athletic excellence in their chosen sport. The recognition of these student athletes highlight their achievements in our community. Attracting young people into sports programs engages active minds, promotes physical and mental fitness and a sense of achievement, qualities that bode well for the future. Sport Aurora, through its member stakeholders, provides opportunities in sport and recreation programs for people of all ages. I'm very excited with the recognition of these young athletes, which is an added bonus to the Sport Aurora recognition program. Mayor and members of council, it gives me great pleasure to present to you these outstanding young athletes. I'm going to bring them in. I'll read out the names and the school. Cardinal Carter, Julia Missick and Hayden Henrich. St. Maximilian Cole, Laureen Daniels, Ryan Stewart. Dr. G.W. Williams, Michaela Rohees. St. Jerome, Paige Anton and Andrew Parsons. Northern Lights, Julian Tascuda, Devon's Drive, Gabby Duffy, Amy Marcinak, Jamie McLean, Natalie Tanaka, and Denise Derbinskia. Aurora Heights, Sarah Alonzi, Ethan Weiss, Our Lady of Grace, David Dabano and Kendra Keys. Aurora Grove, Brooke Piper, Isabel Ahmed, Kinshore Yagara, Matthew Quatronimimi. Lester B. Pearson, Jack Piper, Lucas Nasaveski, Hannah Vibian, Regency Acres, Sam White, and Molly Frost, Rick Hansen, Santosh Rajmohan, and Abhigna Ravipati. St. Joseph's, Zara Christie Beaumont, and Hannah Smith. Holy Spirit, Felissa Royal D'Angelo, Naveen Shnuda, Andrew Ananis, Ryan Chutterbrook. Light of Christ, Samantha Ribeiro, Isabella Coots, William Haynes, Ryan Smith, and Wellington PS, Rebecca Zhu, and Austin Zaneri. Council, thank you again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dean. Of course, I should point out that Alan Dean is an honored member of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. Thank you very much for coming out. Should we tell me this is like Hotel California? Our next presentation is Mr. Ron Weiss, and he is representing Sport Aurora, Activate Aurora with an update. Mr. Weiss, you have, if you'd introduce yourself, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Daw, members of council, town staff, and guests. My name is Ron Weiss, and I'm here as chair of the Activate Aurora Steering Committee of Sport Aurora to present our annual report and to thank you and our other collaborators for your continued support. Oops. Let me provide a little context about Activate Aurora for you. Over 4 years ago, Sport Aurora gathered 40 community leaders from various sectors to discuss the importance of healthy physical activity in Aurora. We then organized a steering committee in 2015 made up of those sectors, and then formalized this further with the Mayor's Task Force on Physical Activity that brought together the stakeholders interested in contributing to the project. You see them here on this slide. This led to a submission of a successful Ontario Trillium Foundation grant application, and I must thank those collaborators for their in-kind contributions of staff and expertise that helped make the application a success. As of June 30th, 2018, we've finished 2 years of the grant with 1 more year to go. I'm happy to report that we're on target with deliverables and funding remains secure for our final year. So, what do? Our process has been threefold and is represented here on the slide. The first outcome was to promote awareness in all of our sectors through the communications program. Secondly, we built capacity in the system primarily through training leaders and developing physical literacy that promotes physical activity. Finally, we help our stakeholders build sustainable programs that will survive the grant and we hope leave a legacy as the grant expires. So what have we done in these last 2 years? Those are only a few of the milestones that you see on the screen. Our impact assessments have shown that we're on target with impacting 27,500 people in Aurora. We've done this through direct work with elementary schools, with after-school providers, through working with our older adult network that was built out of interest in helping older adults become active, and through our physical literacy summits that have become an anticipated regional professional development opportunity for community leaders. Along the way, we've consulted with other communities who have looked at our cross-sectorial model and who have been successful at acquiring their own grants for similar purposes. So year 3 is before us, and continued collaboration is underway with all of our sectorial partners to deliver in schools, after school, more summits, and the implementation of new abilities course for older adults to bring physical literacy development to that cohort, something that's not been done anywhere in the country. We also will be working with our sport partners to help with coach development, offering free workshops for coaches and movement preparation for sport. We've launched a new program called Exercise is Medicine, collaborating with the health and medical community in Aurora and the hospital, and for which we've received additional funding. On August 8th, I'll be presenting Durable by Design at the 14th Annual Global Conference on Aging. What we're doing here is being watched, and in some cases duplicated elsewhere. So what's our plan for sustainability? Well, we're going to be working with each of our sectors. Both school boards have expressed interest in continuing our work with other schools in town. We're now working with 7, and 7 of them were represented here today on the Athlete of the Year. We will define what municipal strategies can be put in place with the new capacity that we built in town. I hope the municipality will work with us to help build and deliver meaningful programs from this experience. Our older adult network has begun formalizing their relationships, continuing beyond the grant, so that collaboration can continue. And Seneca has indicated an interest in assuming organizational responsibility for the summits. So finally, what I want to do is thank you on behalf of the steering committee. This could not have been done without the leadership, encouragement, and support of the mayor and the town council members. And I add that the town recreation staff has been a great help in delivery of our play days and other related events. Seneca has donated time and space and has helped to recruit professionals and participants to our summits. Our older adult network, again, that includes town staff, is extensive and active, and I thank them for continual service to developing an active adult population. Everyone who cares about kids and both boards at each of our Activate Aurora schools have embraced the program, and the commitment to the outcomes for kids is outstanding. Our steering committee has been our eyes and ears on the ground and has kept us informed of the trends and opportunities in Aurora. Finally, I have to thank both Sport for Life and the Ontario Trillium Foundation for having a confidence in funding our work. It truly takes a village to raise a child, and the collaboration in this village has been remarkable. I thank you for your time tonight on a busy evening.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. May I first have a motion to receive Mr. Weiss's presentation? Councillors Humphreys and Tom. Any comments or questions for Mr. Weiss? Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much, Ron, for coming this evening and giving us a great update, and that we have a third year of the Trillium Grant. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of proof to show that you have met your targets and have been really successful. I'm really proud of this initiative. I'd love to hear how it all started, but maybe just 2 minutes of that. But what I wanted to recognize is that for you and the committee and everyone who's worked so hard to continue to really drive this initiative, it's really hit home for many, many of the residents and the schools. And one particular, my 7-year-old grandson, who was like, I need to walk because we're activating, I thought he's activating Aurora, and he's, going to camp, and they're walking everywhere, and, long walks to the splash pads. And I think it's great. I think it's just bringing us back home to what's important and getting out there. And I've really enjoyed the initiative. So thank you very, very much. But if you take one or 2 minutes to say just how it all started, where it all came from, because it's a great initiative, and I think everyone should
First of all, I can't believe you're a grandmother. Second of all, how it got started was through a collaboration of about 40 or 50 people that Sport Aurora brought together from various sectors. School boards, business leaders, people from town council, etc., came in, and they wanted to do something about physical activity, and then it just rolled out from there with the steering committees and all the rest of it. It takes an awful lot of work, but it really was a volunteer issue from the beginning, and it never would have started without those people helping.
Great. Thank you so much, and thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Weiss, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate all the hard work that everyone's gone in bringing forward Activate Aurora. I've asked you this before, and I'm just curious if you could explain to all of us what Activate Aurora has done for unstructured play, because I know that when I was a kid, and I think many of us when we were kids, we went to the parks and we just kind of made up games and we played. And so what are we doing to bring that back to our youth and our community?
Well, some of the things that are happening with the town is that the town leaders in recreation have been trained in physical literacy development, and the foundation of physical literacy development is about fundamental movement skills and creating confidence in children. And so the notion of that is that kids, once they learn how to run and jump and throw and catch and participate and feel comfortable and confident, then they can now start going out and doing things in an unsupervised manner. I don't think we can call Aurora a free-range community yet. There's been a lot of studies on how far children actually roam from home, and we need to do some work on the unstructured play and programs. So I agree with you 100%. And a lot of it has to do with some of our playgrounds and the ways that we encourage children to be involved in things. We are working through Sport Aurora with a program that tries to create community play areas and supervised areas so parents can feel comfortable to let their kids walk off to the park and be participants in that. I think it's very important, and it's vital if you're truly going to become an active community that parents allow their children a little more freedom and a little more space. It takes time to make those changes. It's a good comment.
Perfect, thank you. And just one more question. You mentioned about the grant ends after year 3, and I'm just wondering what is the thought about where the funding will come to keep Activate Aurora continuing?
Well, part of that sustainability piece was, so for instance, we're talking with the 2 boards of education to see whether they will fund some mentors that will go into the remaining schools that are not Activate Aurora schools, and we'll work with the phys ed staff and work with the teachers that are there so that they can continue this. So that's kind of important for a sustainability piece. Seneca is interested and expressed interest in taking on the professional development responsibility as a post-secondary institute. And so I'm hoping that they're going to say when the grant's done, then they're going to take that on and do that again. I have talked to our Director of Community Services about opportunities with the municipality vis-a-vis after-school space and putting a robust program in place that includes transportation to and from our multi-sport facilities so that parents can be sure that something is going to happen. That takes some significant planning, and in our preliminary information what we found is that we would be displacing some of our sport organizations in that after-school space because we just don't have enough. So I'm hoping it's a message. I mean, what we're trying to do is create an active community, but if we create an active community and we don't have a lot of facilities for them to go into, then we're creating a problem for ourselves. So it's a good problem to have. People are motivated and want to be active, and the second issue is how do we program them correctly to do that. So that's another example of a sustainability thing. Our older adult network is really active, and I'm really confident that the older adults in this community are going to be served very well through that network that includes people from residents and non-residential areas, chats, etc.
And just one more as a follow-up through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Rees, would that also include looking at possibly funding from the municipality as well? Or?
Well, it could, and before the end of the year we will be looking at other grant opportunities in order to find funding probably for specific interests. So for instance, there's a lot of interest in the older adult space right now because a lot of us are getting a little older and there's a lot of us. And so there's grant money available for that. So this year we will probably be looking for opportunities in that particular space to do that. We also have some issues with girls and women and doing work and trying to stem that tide of girls who exit programs at the age of 12 and 13. We want to find out why that happens, and we also want to fix it to see if we can get more girls engaged for a longer time period.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Just one quickly. I would appreciate it if you could remember that when we were at Seneca for the last seminar, the guest you had from Winnipeg had a fascinating comment on free-range children. Do you remember what those numbers are?
Well, no. What he did is he went back into the early 1900s and suggested that the average range that a child had was somewhere close to 5 kilometers. So parents would let them go out and do the things about 5 kilometers away. And right now the average is somewhere close to 300 or 400 yards. So the range of children's ability to go out and participate in things. And most of you in the room will remember those days where, you know, you used to go around and do things, and sometimes you got in a little bit of trouble, and sometimes you skinned a knee, but that wasn't the end of the world. It's a learning experience for children to go and do that, and I'm not advocating that children get hurt, but what we do have to do is to help them learn more about how to be responsible for themselves, and so that's what that's about. So thanks for that question.
Thank you very much. We have a motion to receive the president. Oh, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you for coming again. What you said about trying to keep older teenagers active, to me that's a very, very important component, because if they can carry that through into their young adulthood, I think they're more like, I think stats show they're more likely to continue to be an active adult. So.
Right, there's an incredible drop-off in
yes.
that area, not only but boys, but more typically for girls.
Yes.
And I think that's a tragedy. It's something that needs to be solved, and we're working with that with Sport for Life on trying to identify why that occurs and then how to offset that. And a lot of it is because girls and boys, if you hadn't noticed, are a little different, but they're different also from their sociologic factors and what motivates them to be participants, and we're learning a little bit more about that. So hopefully we'll be able to cross that bridge this next couple of years here in this community.
Thank you. And I have seen some very nice examples of, at the fitness center, of a boy and a girl working out together.
Yeah.
And it seems to be quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
So we have to take their interests and expand them.
Absolutely. I agree. And as I said, the physical literacy stuff is all about confidence, building people with skills so that they feel good enough to go out and participate on their own. So that's really the foundational piece here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Motion to receive the presentation, please. Councillors Kim and Fury. All in favour? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We'll move to delegations. First delegation, Jill Foster, Chief Executive Officer of the Aurora Public Library. Ms. Foster. If you can introduce yourself, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Jill Foster. I'm the CEO of Aurora Public Library, and I'm here this evening to speak in support of Councillor Kim's motion that he will be bringing forward later in the meeting. Good evening, Mayor Daw and members of Council. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you one last time on a subject that is dear to my heart and I hope dear to yours as well. As you know, public libraries in Ontario receive the overwhelming majority of their funding from the municipal sector. The provincial government also provides a modest annual grant to libraries by way of the Public Library Operating Grant. The Public Library Operating Grant is based on municipal population, or it used to be. And while many municipalities in Ontario have experienced significant population growth in the past 20 years, the province's annual grant has not kept pace with this growth. In fact, the provincial grant in support of public library operations has remained unchanged since 1995. Census data indicate that Aurora's population in 1996 was approximately 34,860 individuals. Today, according to figures I received from the town of Aurora as of late 2017, our population is 63,300, a 45% increase. Aurora Public Library is serving a much larger and more diversified population than in 1995, and the requirement to enhance our service level grows each year as well. APL has been well supported by this and previous councils. Make no mistake about that. But most years, when I appear before you with the library's request for an operating funding for the upcoming year, I'm questioned about the amount of support the library receives from the province. Although the province also underwrites the cost of our extensive interlibrary loan delivery system that allows public libraries to share their resources across the province, as well as providing some ad hoc funding in support of technology, our annual grant amount has been capped at $44,140 since 1995. Public libraries and their boards have lobbied for many years for a reasonable increase in the provincial grant to more closely reflect the population served. These efforts were finally rewarded in the March 28, 2018 provincial budget, with the previous government's inclusion of an investment of $51 million over 3 years to public libraries and First Nation library funding. With the recent election comes the potential for decisions to be reversed. It is crucial that the new government honor the hard-won commitment made to public libraries to provide a provincial support at a level consistent with the population served. The Library Board endorsed Councillor Kim's motion at its June meeting and is hopeful that Aurora Town Council will make a formal request to the provincial government that it honour the adequate and appropriate funding allocated to public and First Nation libraries in Ontario in its March 2018 budget. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Foster. May I first have a motion to receive and refer? Councillors Pury and Humphreys, any questions for Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Thompson, before I even get out for Ms. Foster?
Thank you so much for coming this evening, Jill, and really thrilled to see you. And you're not going to go anywhere far anyways, right? So before I thank you again for all your service, just a question in terms of, I'm in support of the motion, absolutely. And it is shocking to think since 1995, there's been no increase. So absolutely in support of the motion before us. From your perspective, is there an opportunity here to also engage with the Souls to see if they're solicit, the group of municipalities in Ontario for further support in this area, or is that have been talked about? Or
the Southern Ontario Library Service?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, actually, they get their funding from the Ministry of culture, tourism, sport as we do. So
Right.
they really can't lobby on our behalf.
On our behalf, okay.
Yeah.
I just wondered if they can sort of help elevate this requirement for all of us.
I think through channels they make the need known, but they really can't come out and directly support the effort.
Great. Well, thank you so much again. A wealth of knowledge, and for all of us here, just thank you very, very much. Congratulations on your retirement, and lots of adventures ahead, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you for being here, Jill. Just quickly, have you reached out to our newly elected MPP, Christine Elliott, to express your concerns, and if so, what was her response?
I've not.
Okay.
No. And she is actually in the northern part of Aurora, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're right. So the question would be with
MPP
Mike Parsa then.
Yes, yes. But no, the answer is no to that
To both.
as well, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being our leader of the library and all the work you've done. You said something and I didn't quite follow it. With respect to us not receiving a great amount of money through the years, there have been other things that have been offered by the province, and I think you mentioned that even taking those into account, we're still way behind.
So we do receive funding for the interlibrary loan system, and that is significant because we trade, for lack of a better word, books between libraries in the province. So if Aurora doesn't have a book that somebody wants, we can get it from another library at no cost. We just reciprocal borrowing between libraries. But the province provides the infrastructure, the van, the delivery system, the software that allows us to do that trading. So that's a significant cost, which it's not really reflected in our budget anywhere. And they also, from time to time, they will give us grants for a technology upgrade or to buy more e-books, but they're not consistent. But it's separate and apart from the provincial grant for operating funds, which is supposed to be based on our population, which has obviously expanded considerably.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Jill, for delegating. It's been, as a member of the library board, it's been a pleasure serving the board with you, and it is sad that you're not going to continue. And nothing more reflects your dedication to the library than you continuing to have concern over the library as you're leaving, just as a mom is concerned about their child, and so it really shows your heart and your dedication to the library. My question to you is, given the lack of increase in the Ontario funding formula over the last, since '95, essentially means all the libraries have been short of funding, and over that same period. So how have libraries, and specifically our library, been able to deal with that type of shortfall? You know, where's the challenges most noticed, and what have staff and volunteers been doing to overcome that?
Library staff are very adept at stretching a dollar, at trying to do as much as they can with what they have. We've become very good at it over the years. I think our pressure point is probably the newcomers to Aurora, and also trying to keep pace with technology, because what we bought 5 years ago probably isn't cutting edge anymore, and people expect the best. If we're going to be a technological hub and a teaching facility for people, then we have to have the best equipment. So that's probably where our most difficult areas are. And I have to say, this community, this council, supports the library very well. So I think compared to some municipalities, we've had more of a cushion and less crisis on our hands. But had we the funds that we should have had for the additional, I don't know, do the math, 40,000 people that aren't included in that provincial grant amount, we could be doing more. So rather than just sort of business as usual and incremental steps every year, we could probably do some really exciting, interesting things that we really can't do at this point.
Thank you, Jill. And, this motion, I'm just championing it, but it's certainly yours and the library board's, and happy to sponsor it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Seeing no other comments or questions, thank you very much for coming out, Jill. Congratulations on your retirement. I hope you have a good time. And I also would like to recognize you've got a couple of members of your board and your staff here, so I do appreciate them coming out as well. Thank you very much.
Our board chair, and Jan Friedman, and our manager of community collaboration, Risha Mandelkorn.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
in favor of the motion, please. Opposed? That is carried. Our next delegate is Mr. Javed Khan, representing Sport Aurora with respect to the Hallmark lands. Mr. Khan, if you'd introduce yourself, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Dahl, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I stand before you as the new Director of Community Relations for Sport Aurora. On behalf of Sport Aurora, I want to thank you all for allowing further discussion regarding the Hallmark lands and drawing attention to this very important issue to sport and recreation. On our previous 2 occasions, dated May 22nd and June 12th, we discussed the importance of a single sport solution on Hallmark and its impact on sport tourism and the business community in town. This evening, I would like to continue these conversations. Council voted on June 12th with respect to this issue for 1 softball diamond and 1 multi-purpose field to be placed on these lands. The executive summary prepared for you indicates that the multi-purpose field doesn't fit. Not only doesn't it fit in the ideal north-south direction required for competitive play to mitigate the sun, but it also requires a $1.25 million budget increase taken from an account that is already almost $10 million in deficit. If this wasn't concerning enough, in addition to this, it requires the cancellation of a capital project at Norm Weller. Some have and will argue that this can be improved by switching to a senior soccer field. We remind Council that the decision for the 1 field and 1 diamond option was on the condition that a multi-purpose field was built and that it was going to service multiple user groups such as lacrosse, field hockey, rugby, football, and soccer. Switching to an alternate field ignores every user group but 1. I would also like to reiterate that this council was already presented with data that looked at utilization rates, existing capital projects on the horizon, the ability of a sports group to grow, and future accommodative possibilities should land not be required. In each of these cases, baseball, softball, and slow pitch have showed a greater need than soccer. If the data is truly in question, Sport Aurora, along with its members, commit to providing verified matrix to assist Council in coming to a just and confident decision. Since we have last come before Council to delegate, it has also been determined and reported on June 21st to the Parks, Recreation and Cultural Services Advocacy Committee that the repurposing of Matchell and Fleury parks from rectangular fields to softball fields are far too costly, requiring trees to be removed, hills to be excavated, and retaining walls to be built, etc. There are no other options for diamonds. We have also delegated on other community partners that could provide full-size rectangular fields oriented in the ideal north-south direction at a fraction of the cost. I will therefore respectfully ask again that Council re-examine its options in light of the new data. That a reconsideration be put forward and a motion to move forward with 2 ball diamonds on Hallmark as was originally proposed and recommended by Parks and Rec, approved unanimously by the Parks, Recreation and Cultural Services Advisory Committee and supported by Sport Aurora. This option provides much-needed softball diamonds, services multiple user groups, and is fiscally responsible, doesn't impact other capital projects, supports sport tourism, and has the potential to generate income for our Aurora businesses. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Council, Mayor Dahl, we respectfully ask that you reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan. May I have a motion to receive and refer, please? Councillors Gardner and Thompson, comments or questions for Javed? Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan, thank you very much for coming tonight. Just quickly, does Sport Aurora represent all sports organizations in the town of Aurora?
We have 47 or so member organizations. There are 2 organizations that we have reached out to, or at least we reached out to 1, try to have a meeting with them. A meeting was canceled and we were looking for reschedulation of the meeting.
So that's a no?
Yeah.
Thank you. And is Sport Aurora funded by taxpayer dollars?
Sport Aurora funded by taxpayer dollars? Not in terms of taxpayer dollars, no.
It's not funded by the municipality?
By the municipality, yes.
It's taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other speakers, please? Thank you, sir. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Our next delegate, Mr. Jamie Cole. With respect to the Hallmark lands, Mr. Cole. If you'd introduce yourself, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to me once again. I apologize a little bit for the drowned cat look. I was on a baseball diamond setting it up right before I got here. Got caught in the rain a little bit there. So, my name is Jamie Cole, and I'm president of the Aurora King Baseball Association, the local minor baseball association for Aurora. I'm a parent of Aurora Digger, the local softball association. On behalf of all our diamond users, I once again ask Council to consider putting 2 ball diamonds on the Hallmark lands. As the numbers that I presented last time I spoke to Council show, we have more rectangular fields in Aurora than Richmond Hill or Newmarket, really significantly more. We have fewer ball diamonds in either of these 2 municipalities. We have the worst rectangular field to diamond ratio among our surrounding towns, ours being almost 4 rectangular fields for every 1 diamond, while others are mostly in the 2-to-1 range or better. All the diamond users, baseball, softball, and slow pitch, have maxed out the diamonds we have, and we need more space. They have all turned away participants this season. We've had to rely on each other in some cases to work together to maximize what we have, but it's been tough. The men's league has agreed to start some games a half hour later so we can get our games in, but they are now finishing late at night when they still have to work the next day. And our young teams are being rushed at the end of games as they're waiting to get onto the fields. The AKB has given up, one of the teams gave up a practice time so that the mixed slow pitch could schedule an event on a Friday night, a special event for them. The Diggers were trying to host the provincial qualifiers, an event that they fully expected to win at the squirt level, but they were not able to find the diamond time. That event is now being held in Port Perry. They were able to arrange and host their league championship as it is a much smaller tournament, but only once they were able to confirm with the AKBA that they were able to arrange a diamond time. We were able to give up again. Another team gave up a practice time in order that they could get the full schedule in. Currently, we have rep teams that cannot find diamond times to reschedule rainouts from earlier in the season or tonight, as it turns out. The proper diamonds and times are not available. Our house league programs continue to take the brunt of the issue. We do not reschedule rainouts because diamonds can't be found. We have cut practice times in half, we have increased rosters so more kids are sitting, and we have scheduled games on weekends. The desire for baseball in this community is high. All diamond users are turning groups away. Just this week, we had a meeting with 25 potential coaches who are pleading with us to increase the number of competitive teams, something we would love to be able to do, but struggle to, if we can at all. All diamond users have done everything they can to maximize what is available, including renting private diamonds, some of which are outside of town. Recently, we've learned that repurposing the fields at Matchell Park or Fleury Park are far too expensive an option. We know that building parks on the Oak Ridge's moraine land would not allow for building bathrooms or other facilities required for hosting tournaments. There are no diamonds at the school boards that we can share. The Hallmark lands make so much sense for 2 ball diamonds. They can be built with the right amenities. These diamonds could be used by baseball, softball, and slow pitch, and free up time on existing diamonds as well. They would be used every day of the week and could be used for both games and practice times. Please reconsider your decision on the use of the Hallmark lands and create a facility that can be the hub of baseball activity for years to come. The Hallmark lands at this time are really our best option. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. May I first have a motion to receive and refer? Councillors Tom and Humphreys. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, and thank you very much for coming again this evening, and we hear you loud and clear. Just a couple questions. The 1 additional ball diamond, would that help?
Well, one additional ball diamond helps, but it doesn't solve the problem. It's putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
A whole new diamond is a Band-Aid?
Pretty much, yeah.
So it's no help at all? Really?
It gets us one more diamond. It doesn't help too much.
I understand through Mr. Mayor, I understand it doesn't help as much, but it's a brand new diamond. We're almost forgetting the fact that we're getting a diamond. And we're not going to stop here. Like, we're on track to continue doing that. I understand, from your perspective, it would be perfect, but I'm thinking you're getting a new diamond. I'm hoping you're going to get those games a little less pressured. You're turning people away now, and we're going to continue to dig and do this work. I don't see us stopping that. It's in our track to do this, and I just, every time I hear it's like, oh, we're not, it's almost, it sounds just so disappointing, and I understand it's not two, but there's one. It's going to give you that effect. Now, just a quick question for you, Mr. Mayor, and I should have asked this last time. So Lambert Wilson, is that not like those diamonds? Isn't that a great hub there?
Lambert Wilson is a decent hub. It isn't set up overly great. Each baseball diamond actually has its own parking lot, so that shows that it doesn't really create a hub. When tournaments have been hosted there, a pavilion in the middle, teams try and set up fundraisers and things there, but traffic doesn't end up there because people come in from either side on their from the parking lots.
Okay. Thank you. And again, I appreciate you coming, and I from my perspective, I really hope that whatever happens this evening, that there's some relief for baseball and that you will get something positive out of this regardless. But, tonight we'll tell the story. But thank you very much for coming forward.
Councillor Gartner.
Thank you very much for coming this evening. I can see how much you care about this and how sincere you are and really how difficult it is. And again, I don't know what the decision will be, but I would like to thank you for your work.
Any other speakers, please? Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Cole, for delegating. And if I recall from the previous two meetings, we had some stats in front of us. We had various level of diamonds and various levels of usage or capacity. For those, just to, because there's an important decision to make. If you can clarify for some of us, I think just clarify our memory from the last couple of months. Can you clarify as to why there were, if I recall, there were about 3 diamonds that were underutilized? I think it was maybe even 20, 30%. Can you extrapolate in terms of the reason for that?
I think one of those diamonds would have been Summit Park, which is on a very small plot of land, and so we use that one 2 nights a week because we can use it for our T-balls with the tiniest of kids, the 5-year-olds and that sort of thing. The other ones were Matchell Park, which are used between us and the diggers every night of the week. They tend not to get used on the weekends, which I believe brought down the usage time because, again, they're smaller diamonds.
Okay, and I believe the other one was Confederation Park. I guess the same reason for that as well?
There's 2 diamonds at Confederation 1. One is, we use those 4 nights a week. Those are used every night of the week.
Okay.
And some of them are used on Sunday nights for those games that we've added. We've added them at Confederation 3, Diamond Confederation 3.
Okay, great, thank you. And my last question is that there were some inquiries as to why men's softball diamonds versus hardball diamonds. Can you differentiate between the two, please, and whether there's an usage or potential for the hardball?
So the senior hardball diamond is a diamond with a mound, which we currently have I would say the appropriate capacity currently. So the senior softball diamonds, what that allows is virtually everyone from 5 years old to 60 years old, whenever you stop playing slow pitch, to use. Okay. It can be used for any age all the way up.
Great, thank you.
Seeing no other speakers, all in favor of the motion, please. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Cole. Appreciate you coming up. Our next speaker is Mr. Martin Ambrose, excuse me, sir, with respect to the Hallmark lands. If you'd introduce yourself, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Martin Ambrose. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members and staff. Thank you for waiving the procedural bylaw. I respect the fact that this has been quite an exhausting process for all involved, so I'll keep my comments brief. Congratulations to all the school athletes of the year and Alan Dean, one of our founding fathers, and I'm sorry you had to struggle with a lot of those names there, Alan. As you're aware, the Aurora Soccer Club has diligently and respectfully delegated 3 times already, resulting in the June 12th staff proposal and motion for 2 diamonds in favour of a 1-on-1, which ties into the 2016 Master Recreation Plan. The ASC was founded in 1954. The facility you see today at Highland Park has been self-funded and painstakingly developed through the blood, sweat and tears of our membership over the past 4 decades. Our members provide social and charitable works from many organisations, including the South Lake Foundation, Heart and Stroke, Aurora Food Pantry, among others, all of which contributes both to the fabric of our community and the creation of an inclusive and healthy environment for all. On the subject of sport tourism, an estimated 1.2 million attended the Russian World Cup. 570,000 were visitors. It also generated $30 billion in GDP uplift and 220,000 jobs. The World Cup is coming to North America in 2026. Canada, US and Mexico are hosting a 48-team roster. It would certainly be a shame if Aurora was not in a position to take advantage of some of the economic tourism surrounding this. In 1996, when the US hosted the World Cup, the German national team set up their base camp in Alliston, where they took advantage of the Nottawasaga natural grass fields, plural, both of which have an east-west orientation, as does Highland Park, notwithstanding Wembley Stadium in London, England. How did we get there? April 17th, staff proposed 2 ball diamonds, or 1 ball diamond and 1 grass soccer field. May 7th, there was a recreation committee meeting upon which we have no representation. May 22nd, the council decision was tied 4-4. Decision was pushed to June 12th. June 12th, the proposal was defeated and there was a 1-on-1 motion approved. July 17th, the 1-on-1 budget proposal came forward. It was rejected. We're here again today. Why really is the big question. Simply the context of the proposal from April through to July has changed from grass to artificial turf. Why was the April staff proposal for a grass soccer field in the first place? Why is council being asked to vote on a moving target? What are my members talking about? It's not actually Hallmark. They're talking about the process and the lack of consultation. As one of the primary representative sporting bodies in this community, why does it appear that irrespective of the June 12th 1-on-1 decision, this is now being suppressed by a manoeuvre? Even if council decide in favour of the 1-on-1 option, we continue to make ourselves available for dialogue with council, staff, and our fellow recreational users. This is a very large capital project. You're clearly divided on the best course for the community, and this topic has divided elements of this community. We do again request that council direct staff to include at least 1 grass soccer field with floodlights into project design and approval, in addition to our continued request that soccer be provided with its own representation on the Parks, Recreation and Cultural Services Advisory Committee. With the utmost of respect and no prejudice intended at all, I will make some quotes from Sport Aurora, their May 22nd delegation. Whether it is soccer or baseball or a combination, we are happy.
1 minute, sir.
We are in a tough scenario. We want sports there, and we also have to advocate for our membership. Unfortunately, the Aurora Youth Soccer has dropped out of the Sport Aurora, and the Aurora Soccer Club has never been a member. I'd like to also answer the statistic question that Councillor Gertner asked earlier on. The reason young people are not playing sport or active today is because 64% of their parents are required to play. If they are playing, another 64% of kids will play. If the parents drop off and are not participating, you're going to drop the number of kids participating to 24%. This concludes my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambrose. Motion, first of all, to receive and refer. Councillors Thompson and Maracas. Comments or questions for Mr. Ambrose, please? I've got one. Mr. Ambrose, did I understand you correctly saying there was no recommendation out of that Parks and Recreation Committee?
You had a unanimous decision. The Parks and Recreation Committee don't make recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Well,
they make recommendations, not decisions.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
But there was a recommendation.
There was a recommendation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it, sir. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And our last delegate is Georgia Pottage, resident, with respect to update on the site plan control bylaw. If you could introduce yourself, please, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, I'm not Georgia. I'm Robin Gray, and I live in the Regency Acre subdivision, and I'm making a very short presentation, and I ask that it go on record.
Just a second, please. I'm going to ask Council to waive procedure to allow a switch in the delegate. Councillors Kim and Humphreys, all in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Please.
Simply, the three ratepayers groups are asking the town to consider that there are two choices available to stop the incompatible homes being built in the three neighborhoods that have been recognized. First option is to freeze development in the three areas immediately, or to direct planning to work with the three ratepayers groups to change the zoning bylaws to stop any growth, because the site plan will not help. The proposed site plan will not help. And that is the end. Okay? Thank you. Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Please, Councillor Kim. Comments or questions for the delegate? Councillor Humphreys.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, can you clarify your position? I wasn't sure. You mentioned there was two options, but...
Yeah, obviously we're not in agreement with what has been presented in the past, and most of us were in attendance last week. This is basically a continuation of that. If I can ask Georgia to come down, I've made the presentation.
No, we've already switched, so if you...
Okay, that's fine.
I'm sorry. Just to...
The choices are basically to stop until the new council, whatever you have suggested. Mr. Ramuno wants things waited until January, until he has his architectural. It has to stop now. We're giving you the two choices.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was just clarifying what you were... That's good. I understood that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, all in favor of receipt and refer, please. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Council will move to the consent agenda first. There are 8 items on the consent agenda. Would anybody like anything moved from the consent agenda brought forward? Seeing none, may I please have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Thank you, Councillor Tom. Councillor Peary, all in favor, please. Using your tablets. Councillor Humphreys? Oh, she's in. Councillor Tom? Yeah.
Showing up as she hasn't voted, but she has.
That carries. Council, from GC last week. Items, please. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll pull item S1R2.
Thank you. That's the signed bylaw, correct? Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
I'd ask that A6 be pulled, just specifically item number 2, the gymnasium feasibility.
Okay, thank you. Other items, please. Councillor Kim.
S1R3.
I'm sorry, S1 R3?
R3.
Thank you. Councillor Beer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would have expected somebody else to put R1 on the table, but I'll pull that one.
Which one? Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
R11.
Thank you. Okay, so we have, at this point, we have A6, R1, R2, R3, R11. Anything else, please? May I? Thank you. Councillor Tom, second, please, for items not requiring separate discussion. Councillor Thompson? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Using your tablets. That's good. Carried. Thank you very much. We'll start with A6. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I'll put the staff recommendation on the floor, but I'd just like to amend it slightly with council support.
Okay. Second, please. Councillor Kim, thank you. Councillor Thompson, back to you.
I just want to be clear that it gets referred to the capital budget discussions for 2019, so I'd ask that the motion be amended to include that it be referred to 2019 capital budget. The gymnasium piece. Just number 2. That's all I was referring to.
So
A6, item 2.
Please.
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, we'll just put, Linda, if you mind just putting up item number 2 from that delegate, or from that recommendation from GC. This could possibly be a friendly amendment. I'm not sure if the rest of council would agree.
I know it was inferred last week during the discussion, but I'd just like to have it officially adopted.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor. I think it's friendly. Council, are we good with that? Okay.
I think Jeff Thompson.
Any other comments, Councillor Thompson?
Just briefly, I mean, it certainly was my hope that it could have been dealt with during this 2018. The Parks and Rec Committee looked at it back in November. You know, personally, I had conversations with staff with regards to funding in January, you know, and confirmed that it was DC eligible and that it could be tackled as a sort of a mid-year addition to the 2018 budget. You know, unfortunately, it wasn't able to materialize and bring forward for council's consideration at this meeting, and since we've run out of meetings, but I just want to make sure that it is dealt with. What we have seen is that, you know, from the information provided to the committee, is that at one time it was contemplated. The price tag was significantly lower than it is today, and I'd rather see council deal with it sooner rather than later so that no further increase comes to the cost to build this gymnasium, because I do believe that it's necessary and it's needed. It's not a question of if we need it, it's a question of when we're going to build it. And so I would certainly hope that future council takes it into consideration and moves forward with it quickly.
Thank you. Using your tablets, please. All in favor? We'll move to R1, which is the Hallmark lands. Council, if I may make a suggestion, that we have a chance to go down the procedural rabbit hole on this one. If someone would care to put a reconsideration on the floor now so we can have a fulsome discussion as opposed to perhaps getting into it later. If not, we'll just move on. Councillor Kim, you move that? Thank you. Is there a second? Councillor Thompson? Any? Councillor Perry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I pulled the item. Is it not standard procedure that the individual who pulled the item makes a motion?
That's fair. I was just, if it's the will of council to go this way, that's fine. If you would like to, it was a suggestion. I think we're going to end up there anyway, so.
For the sake of time, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to stick to, I think, what was my first intention when we spoke about this. So I'll put a motion on the table to move forward with one baseball diamond and a grass soccer field.
Well, that wasn't, so are you changing the recommendation then that's coming forward from committee?
There was no recommendation.
Right. Well, the motion that would be to receive.
All right, I'll put a motion on to receive and to move forward with one baseball diamond.
We'll do the receive first and then I'll come back to you, okay? Well, I agree with Councillor Perry. Councillor Perry? Is there a second for Councillor Perry's motion?
We'll start with a motion to receive then?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Councillor Humphreys, thank you. Councillor Perry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make an amendment that we proceed with one baseball diamond and one soccer field. And I believe, well, I'll get into my questions afterwards.
Is there a second? Well, we'll see what happens. Councillor Humphreys, you're seconding? Thank you. Councillor Perry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my understanding that if we don't go forward with a multi-purpose field, but if we just go forward with a grass soccer pitch, we'd be able to orient the field appropriately to ensure that play is allowed for without having to worry about sun being, you know, in the opposing team's eyes. Is that correct?
I will go to Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the orientation last week was considered, and the orientation as proposed is best to go the north-south.
Councillor?
So we'd be able to have it facing the right way?
It would fit.
Thank you. That's all I'm going to say. I think we've debated this ad nauseum over the last month and a half or so. So that's it. Thank you.
We're just going to wait for a second and get the motion up. Is that your motion, one grass soccer field or one soccer field? Well, this is where we're going to get procedural, Councillor Perry, because the recommendation...
Just to respond, Mr. Mayor, to your question, with my microphone on, it is a grass soccer field, that's correct.
Okay, then that is That requires a reconsideration because the direction from council on June the 12th was a baseball diamond and a multi-purpose rectangular field. Councillor, so...
If this requires a reconsideration, Mr. Mayor, then I'm happy to move that now. I didn't think it would, so I understand.
I do believe we had this discussion today, and I do believe that requires a reconsideration. So is there a second for the reconsideration, please? What's your point of order, Councillor?
I don't see how it would require a reconsideration, considering that was one of the options within the report last week, within the report that's actually part of the GC report. It's
because
the second
we have nothing
option.
that's coming forward from last week. So,
but it's the second option. So if we would turn it down last week, we could have turned it down. We could have voted down, which we did. We could have put forward the other option that was within the report. So that wouldn't have required a reconsideration. So why this week does it require a reconsideration?
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Maracas. I don't rule in your favor. Councillor, who seconded the reconsideration? Councillor?
There wasn't a reconsideration.
That's Councillor Peary has put forward a motion to reconsider. And Councillor Kim, are you seconding that, or Councillor Humphreys? Councillor Humphreys, are you seconding Councillor Peary's reconsideration? I consider that to be reconsideration because the direction from council was a multi-purpose. Excuse me, is there a seconder for Councillor Peary's motion to reconsider, please? You have your hand up, Councillor. Is there discussion to the reconsideration? In that case, to the reconsideration, please. If not, let's, Councillor Gardner.
Could you just be clear what's on the table, please?
Mr. Clerk?
Through Mr. Mayor, right now it's the chair has ruled that the Councillor Peary's amendment to the main motion requires reconsideration. So right now there's a motion to reconsider the field, the multi-purpose and softball diamond located at 100 Van Dorf Side Road. So it is a motion to reconsider on the floor.
Thank you.
Strictly procedural. See no other. Will use of tablets requires 2/3, please. It's reconsideration. That's not it. It's to go to grass. It's a reconsideration to go to grass.
Yeah, it's just a reconsideration issue.
Yeah. Councillor Gardner, please. Thank you. That passes. Councillor Peary. Councillor Perry.
Just wait. Thank you. Now that we're able to discuss it, I'd like to put a motion on the table for one baseball diamond and one grass soccer pitch.
Thank you. Sir, second, please. Councillor Humphreys.
And again, Mr. Mayor, I think we've spoken about this ad nauseum. I think at this point in time, we're speaking about it ad nauseum. Thank you.
Thank you. Other speakers, please. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And to Councillor Peary's comment, I'm not exactly sure what ad nauseum means, but I think this is so very important to both the soccer groups and the baseball. So, you know, if we have to speak about it on and on, then I think that's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Other speakers, please. A couple of questions then from me, for Ms. McDougall, if I may, or Ms. Steenkamp, I'm not sure which. What's the cost? You've already indicated that a soccer field could be oriented in a way that would be acceptable. What's the cost? Is there a cost implication? Pardon me, let me rephrase that.
Previously, in my report from April 17th, I speak to the costs of having a senior soccer field and a senior softball field orientated on the property, and the $3 million proposed budget will satisfy both a senior soccer and a senior grass natural turf field.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. McDougall, then, for you, one of the goals, I guess, of the master plan has been to look at multi-purpose fields whenever possible. From your perspective, from staff perspective, is there a substantial difference between a grass field and a multi-purpose field from a usage perspective, from a benefit, a long-term benefit?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, from a utilization perspective, the hours of availability certainly will increase because of the fact with a natural turf, there's required rest times on the soccer fields, where in a natural turf, or artificial turf, pardon me, there is not. With regards to a multi-use, it serves a variety of sports versus just one sport utilization, so we could have a variety of sports on the fields. As far as a goal to go that route, it certainly is in the master plan to consider multi-use as a priority whenever we're building rectangle fields, just because of its versatility. Looking at opportunities of where they could be housed is certainly something the staff will keep in mind when moving forward and looking at fields and space where another natural artificial turf could go, or other partnerships that we could consider where that could go. The space at Hallmark just does not fit the artificial turf model as it relates to a multi-use facility, just because of the configuration and in order to get that north-south configuration.
So if, as an example, the Bloomington lands, which have been discussed about for a while, and the CAO and I met with both Ms. Elliott, who's now the Deputy Premier, and Mr. Parsa, who is our southern MPP. We discussed a number of things. One of the things we discussed was moving forward on Bloomington, and they both promised to look into that, and we've already had some indication that there is a possibility of moving forward sooner rather than later on that. So if that was to come to fruition, say within the next year, because the master plan has stated, if I recall correctly, that the ideal situation would be 3 rectangular multi-purpose fields. Minimum 3, maximum 5. Would the Bloomington lands be able to support that configuration between 3 and 5?
Through Mr. Mayor, or to you, Mr. Mayor, from brief conversations with Mr. Downey and the look at that property, it's a significant amount of space that should be able to accommodate. That was the idea from the original conversations with that space, to at least house a minimum of the 3 and putting those 3 fields together. So that would, at this point, that is what the staff's intent would be when considering those lands.
So if the Bloomington lands were to come to fruition, then would there be a long-term goal or short-term goal of relocating this one potential grass soccer field and converting that to a multi-purpose rectangular field in the Bloomington area?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there has been thought and consideration by staff already as an idea, with it being, if the proposed moves forward with a natural turf on Hallmark, that the rectangle field ultimately could be accommodated on a new site like Bloomington, and the rectangle field natural turf could be considered or reconfigured into or repurposed into another baseball diamond at a future time. Those thoughts are all part of our analysis and trying to figure out how to best utilize the space in a future plan. We know that the lands for Magna are coming off our repertoire, and we have to look at a future plan and looking at that long-range accommodations and trying to accommodate soccer in a multi-facet or multi-purpose facility that has a multiple courts or fields rather is an ideal scenario, and Bloomington would serve that as an opportunity.
And is there any sense either from you, excuse me, or from Ms. Steenkamp, as to what that cost would be, and what would be saved from the work that would be done to prepare a grass field and then potentially convert that to a baseball diamond. I realize that this, you haven't had any opportunity to really do any investigation, but there would obviously be a cost. Would it be substantive, do you feel, or not too bad in terms of incremental to move to a baseball diamond?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would suspect the costs would be 60% or maybe even 70% again, because there's fencing considerations. The baseball has an infield, drainage configurations are different, and irrigation. So essentially, you'd be starting from anew.
Thank you very much. That's all I've got right now. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I was thinking along the lines that Ms. McDougall was saying, that if we do a regular grass soccer field, that if we do come to a position where we can get more land, put a multi-purpose field, artificial field in place, that perhaps it would be the appropriate thing to consider making that into a second baseball diamond. So that's what's at the back of my head with respect to how I'm going to vote tonight.
Ms. Steenkamp or Ms. McDougall?
There's a question. Through Mr. Mayor, certainly I thank you for the comment, and again, if it's from the long-range plan is ultimately what we're trying to look towards. We know that trying to accommodate interest here and now is the challenge of council at this point, but we know from a staff perspective we're trying to look at those long-range plans as well, and other partnerships with the school boards if possible, where other relationships in other fields could come on board, and using those options as well, and looking at the repurposing of other existing fields that we have, and trying to figure out what the best model is.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Just before I go to Councillor Kim, there is a dark blue Toyota in the parking lot, license ASWZ 264. Lights are on. You wouldn't want to go out there later and not be able to start it. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Through you to Ms. McDougall. Back on June 12th when we voted on 1-on-1 multi-purpose field, I think many of us voted on that because of the request by stakeholders or the added benefits of a multi-purpose field, because it will accommodate rugby and other rectangular sports. And the multi-purpose field would adequately support all those different rectangular field sports, because, like you said, about the rest periods are not as lengthy. So can you give us an idea in terms of in a 12-hour day or a 9-hour day, how much activity can go on, or how many games, or how many units of play can go on a multi-purpose versus grass?
Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with regards to the analysis of hours per day, it can vary, whether it's a weekday or a weeknight, or a weekend. But I know the analysis of staff have completed that an artificial turf would provide approximately 1,500 hours of playable time, where a natural turf with lights would provide approximately 400 hours of playable time. And that's due to the shutdown or the rest periods required.
Sorry, did you say 1,200 versus 400?
1,500 versus 400.
Okay. Thank you. That's all for now.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just following up on your comment with regards to Bloomington Land and conversations you've had ongoing, through you to Ms. McDougall. Ms. McDougall, if the motion in front of us passes, what would be the timelines in terms of the RFP going out and obviously a decision being made to award it and then construction?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe this question may have been asked to Mr. Downey previously, and the time frame that he had proposed at that point was RFP award or going out and being awarded winter, early spring, with construction proposed late 19 with an open of 2020.
So in essence, it may not be determined who, the RFP may not be awarded until the new term of council. Sorry, through you to Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that's the case, just because of the nature of the election. If it is something that can go through with the CAO's proposal, we may be able to do that. But at this point, with getting the information and specifications together for the RFP issuance and award, it's likely going to be more of a November, December, January approval date, which would fall into the new council.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson, you're good?
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers, please? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. Just waiting for the tablets. That is a tie and fails. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe it technically was an amendment, so the floor is back to being mine. But I'll put 2 baseball diamonds on the senior diamonds on the field, on the table, sorry.
Is there a second for 2 baseball? Councillor Kim. Speakers to 2 baseball, please.
Just to be brief, Mr. Mayor, it would have been my preference for us to move forward with 1 and 1, but I would rather see things get built than nothing get built, so I will be in favor of this.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus. I'm sorry? No. Councillor Marcus.
First off, do we not need a motion for reconsideration? 2 baseball diamonds failed. Do we not need a motion for reconsideration?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, when the reconsideration motion happened before, the entire matter was reopened. So this is in order.
Some funny procedure going on. So I'll challenge the ruling of the chair. I think a reconsideration is in order.
I'm sorry?
I think a reconsideration is needed.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of upholding the ruling of the chair, which is that this is still a legitimate issue to be discussing without an additional reconsideration. Using your tablets, please. All in favor? No, just hands. I'm sorry. Thank you. All in favor? I'm sorry? In favor of the chair. Contrary? Carries. Councillor Marcus, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, I'll just make some brief comments. I think that I have problems with procedurally how this has come back to us. I think that this has been a way to circumvent the process and the decision made by the majority of council. And I'm disappointed, and I'll just leave it at that. I guess we'll deal with this as we move forward in election season. So.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I echo comments of Councillor Maracas. I'm very disappointed with the report in general, how that new information came to us at the last in-between reports. It's just not, I wouldn't want to say this publicly, but I didn't want to, but I am very, very disappointed, and this is not the quality of work that I want to see in the future.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly this is not the way procedurally or how this discussion occurred. It's unfortunate the way it had to end. But, you know, I think, you know, on June 12th, when it was one baseball diamond and one multi-purpose field, you know, we voted on that based on various sets of information. And during that, and since that time, other pieces of information, you know, like the extra 1.2 million for the multi-purpose field, you know, that was something that we did, you know, all of us did not consider. And so it would only be fair that, you know, if all the information was available now or then as was available now, how would it turn out? And I think it was just and fair that in terms of now we have all the information, we had the opportunity to both to vote on both. And, you know, I think the rational outcome came to pass. And, you know, I don't discount the need for soccer. You know, having, you know, been to the Highland soccer field a couple weekends ago, and I see, you know, the potential, I see the, you know, the social activities and the relationships being built. You know, I get that, and I really appreciate that, and that's a valid, valuable part of community and sport and in all the sport tourism opportunities. But we're just talking about one additional year here where we can have as much as 5 soccer fields all in one area, multi-purpose fields, tournament play opportunities well before 2026, you know, World Cup. You know, no one likes to wait, but, you know, there's something to be said by, you know, good things come to those who wait, and we're only talking about another year. I think baseball has been, you know, they've been waiting for a long time. You know, they've been, you know, suffering in terms of enrollment, in terms of you know, various age categories, and just planning for the future. And so I think we made the right choice, and it's unfortunate in terms of how it progressed, but I believe Council made the right choice in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Other speakers, please. Just one quick comment. If council members are not satisfied with staff reports, the option is to refer it back to staff to beef those reports up. And I think that would be the appropriate thing to do if councillors are not happy with staff reports. Otherwise, quite frankly, I think it's inappropriate to make those comments here at the council table. Seeing no other comments, I will call the vote, please, using your tablets. That carries 5-3. I'm sorry? That was the amendment. Back to the main motion as amended, please. Any further comments on the main motion as amended? Who will speak? Councillor Peary, you were, but I think. Are there any comments or questions on the main motion as amended? Okay, it's calling the vote, please. All in favor, all opposed. Using your tablets, please. It's the main motion, please. It carries on a vote of 6-2. Thank you. Move to R. Can I suggest we move R11 forward, please? Council, could we move R11 forward, please? Site plan. Councillors Thompson and Maracas, all in favor of moving R11 forward? Contrary? Carried. R11. Someone put that on the floor, please. Councillor Perry, thank you. Second? Site plan control. Councillor Thompson, thank you. Comments, questions? Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I see very few residents here for the stable neighborhood issue. Yes, there are, which is interesting after 5 meetings and having hundreds of people, hundreds of residents come to the chamber. My understanding that at least some of them feel that their council hasn't listened to them. It is interesting that it is Ms. Gray that came to the podium, because it's Ms. Gray who called me on May the 1st, 2017, and started this whole process going. And I agree with what she said. If the motion to approve the site plan control for the stable neighborhoods fails, I will be making another motion, and I will ask council to sincerely think about adding a moratorium to our interim control bylaw. That goes until the end of January, and staff said last week that it is possible. That is the only thing that will protect these neighborhoods in the interim.
Thank you, Councillor Gartner.
I'm not finished. I'm just trying to compose myself. My first comment is in the proposed bylaw. It says it refers to Section 41 of the Planning Act, and it says that where an OP provides a site control area, where an OP provides that there can be a site control area, that the council may designate the whole or any part of such area. I looked at the official plan. There's nothing in our official plan that speaks to designating stable neighborhoods as site plan areas. I'll just ask for Mr. Muno to confirm that, although I have it in front of me.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, our official plan does include a section regarding the ability to designate the entire municipality as under site plan control. There's no specific reference to a specific designation like stable neighborhood, but there is a reference related to site plan control generally. And that would allow us then to, or would allow council to amend our existing site plan control bylaw to expand it, in this case, to include single detached and semi-detached housing if council so chooses.
Thank you. In fact, it says all lands within the town of Aurora may be part of a site plan control bylaw under Section 41 of the Planning Act, generally exempting, however, low-density residential uses such as single detached. So I don't believe that our OP had any intention of using site plan control in the low-density single detached homes. And I don't know if it goes against the Planning Act, but I also don't think that it is put forward by the Planning Act. And if we look at our official plan, site plan control section, it's talking about council entering into site plan agreements with owners of development proposals. we're not talking about residential areas. We've never talked about residential areas. It's always been commercial, large, sorry, we've talked about residential areas, but it's been commercial, large residential developments. So this is something, again, that I don't believe was ever envisioned in our official plan. However, if council decides to designate it, through you, Mr. Muno, it says in our official plan that council shall enter into site plan agreements with owners of development proposals in accordance with the Planning Act. Such agreements shall provide council with controls over development proposals.
Councillor, you're coming up to time, please.
Reciting, massing, exterior design, including without limitations, the character, scale, appearance, and design features of buildings. So if we do this, are we going to be able to use those controls that the Planning Act is talking about?
Thank you, Councillor. I will go to another councillor after this, but I'll go to Mr. Ramuno for the answer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that site plan control will allow staff the ability to deal with those features, attempt to control the massing, materials, colors, architectural styles, etc. Yes.
Just as a follow-up, and
you're at time, Councillor, so let me go around.
Okay,
if not, I'll come back. Any other speakers on this item, please? Councillor Gartner, would you care to speak for a second time then?
Thank you. And when staff, as council is giving the responsibility to staff through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, when staff looks at this and they're looking at character, scale, appearance, design features, it's actually two different things. Our zoning bylaw says one thing. It doesn't talk about character, scale, not really scale, appearance, design features. So if we have, I'm assuming the site plan control bylaw will look at everything in the context of zoning bylaws, of the zoning bylaws that are in place. But can staff, for the other issues that the residents have been so strongly against with respect to character, scale, appearance, design features, can staff form parameters that take those into account?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we can, as I mentioned last week. I mean, part of the negotiations when we sit down with the applicants to deal with not only the architecture but also the scale, the height, and the size of the proposed structure.
Follow-up, but the things like height, now the height says in the official plan 9 meters. Are we using that height, or are we using the height in the zoning bylaws?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, the the standards within the zoning bylaw are what regulate the development, but once we have the site plan control, again, staff will work with the applicants. We'll also indicate to them the process that we followed to date over the last 6-7 months, that there's the intention of council to continue to review our existing zoning bylaw standards. We will raise the fact with them that the existing 10-meter height is an issue, and we're going to try to work with them to bring the scale down. If they're bringing forward a proposal that is at 10 meters and it has an architectural style that we feel doesn't fit into that neighborhood, we will work with them to try and bring that down, and that may mean trying to get them to lower the actual height and change the architectural style. That'll be part of our discussion with the applicants.
Thank you, Mr. Muno. A follow-up. But as you may encourage them, but as the zoning bylaw rules, they don't have to listen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. At the end of the day, the provisions in the zoning bylaw are legally still in place, but we still have a say over architectural style and the overall look and treatment of the roof, and et cetera. So again, there will be an ongoing discussion. We will have that control. There's a process that they'll have to follow, and it'll be reviewed by staff. At the end of the day, until we actually change the zoning bylaw, we are working with our current standards, but we will have some control and say, in trying to encourage them to reduce scale and change the architecture.
Thank you. And will you be able to bring to the meeting in September the parameters that you're going to use with respect to these features?
Mr. Muno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly if we're working on those now, if council would like to see something in September, we'll have something ready in September.
Councillor?
Thank you. The bottom line reality, actually, is that the only thing that's going to protect the neighborhoods, protect the hundreds of people who've come to council, are actually what Ms. Gray said. Either a moratorium that's attached to what is in place, as I said, Mr. Uno said that was possible, or simply having a committee of residents work with Mr. Muno to form a set of zoning bylaws that would be appropriate, and then that comes to council. So I will be voting against this, hoping that council will decide to put the best protection in place for our residents.
Thank you, Councillor Gartner. Are there any other comments or questions on this? Seeing none, calling the vote. Using your tablets, please. That carries 7-1. Thank you. We'll go back to R2, proposed amendments to the sign bylaw. I'm sorry, I don't recall who. Councillor Kim, did you pull that? Or Councillor Perry, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I called it just because I'd like a vote on the matter. Are we losing quorum? No.
You're going to put this on?
I won't put it on the floor because I'm strictly against it, but I just wanted it called.
So you're putting it on the floor. Could I have a second, please? Okay. Could someone put this on the floor, please? Thank you, Councillor Maracus. Is there a second, please? Councillor Kim, thank you. Any speakers? All in favor then, all opposed, using your tablets, please. That carries 4-1. Thank you. We'll move to R3, Cultural Partners. Certainly. Okay. Okay. We'll take our 10-minute break, and please be back by 9, which gives you 11. Thank you, Linda. If we could resume, please. Council, I did have a request to move forward Councillor Kim's notice of motion for the members of the library board that are here. I'm just saying I had a request.
Are there enough other cultural partners?
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Is there a second then? Thank you, Councillor Dom. Any comments or questions on the cultural partners update, please? Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did receive an internal memorandum. I think everybody has it. Thank you to Ms. McDougall for doing the extra work. Then just that there was a correction with respect to the cultural center and how it was reported out with their strategic plan. So that's the only thing I wanted to say about the cultural.
Thank you. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of my council colleagues said that staff took a long time to get to his motions, but I think I have the record. I think this took about 2 years. So I thank staff that this came back before I'm out of council, and so I thank you for that. You know, this was an important motion for me because, you know, the first 2 years in council, I saw our cultural partners come in just before budget time and make requests for their next fiscal year's budget, and I just thought, you know, this is not the right way to have for any organization to make long-term planning when they're really just going year to year on their budget requests. And so part of this, the main theme of this motion, or the objective of the motion, was to ensure that there's a steady stream of funding so that organizations can have long-term, they can think long-term. So the core of this is the delivery of resources from the town to the cultural partners who receive some kind of subsidy or budget from the town. And, you know, I was quite pleased with the consultant report. You know, certainly it didn't go far enough because they didn't have the time. I'm glad that, you know, I see that there are quite a few other quote-unquote cultural partners that I did not consider at the beginning, but given that the definition was widened to those who receive subsidies in the form of occupancy space, it makes sense. I think what was stark for me when reading the report was, one, the lack of awareness of a cultural master plan, and I'm sure that the larger partners are aware. They may not be acutely aware, but they are aware that it exists and they're somewhat familiar with it, but some of the smaller partners that were mentioned were not, and I think this is just a notice. It's a great first step to get everyone on board and on side with our cultural master plan. And certainly I think the fact that this is the last cultural plan was made in 2014 certainly deems it necessary for the next term that a new cultural master plan is built in partnership with the identified cultural partners. A lot of the high-level recommendations: integrated group marketing strategy, you know, cultural signage, you know, better communication with the town. I think those are great recommendations. And I do have a couple of questions through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McDougall. What does it mean when it says there's a lack of awareness of economic impact as drivers of success? Does that mean that the cultural partner is not aware of its own economic impact to the town, or they're not aware how big an economic impact or how big an impact they could potentially make if they fully utilize their resources? Can you expand on that, please?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The conversation at the table certainly looked to each individual partner's awareness of themselves and what their impact may be, and I think that they would love to know more what that study could evolve to demonstrate that. There's a lot of information even in the master plan that speaks to the cultural assets and functions of culture in the community that have a positive economic impact. But getting to the root of each of our partners and beyond as to what that actually looks like, I think that that would be a valuable analysis to look further, because I think that there is as much as there is a sport influence and an obvious economic impact when tournaments and things come to town, I think it's also just as important to observe the cultural impact of opportunities that can bring, through a cultural opportunity, bringing people to the community, and looking deeper into what that is. And there's a lot of data out there. It's just trying to match that to Aurora's flavor. So,
great, thank you. And I think another big aspect of this report I really liked was attaching funding, or having the funding model attached to KPIs. And whether you're a large organization or small organization, you need to have key performance indicators to indicate that you are delivering on your cultural promise and your cultural goals. And there's always a way that you could put a definition behind those KPIs. And just outlining that, I think that removes council away from making those emotional decisions. And so I think that's a great suggestion, and I think the next step, they'll go more in detail in terms of what those KPIs would be for each, working with each cultural partner. And so that first step would be removing council away from that funding process. I think also having their own strategic plan in alignment with the town's cultural master plan or strategic plan is also key, because working in a large organization in my day job and in the past looking and working with other large organizations where you have 3 to 5 levels of sub-organizations, each team has their goals, has to roll up to the next level. And I think that's what we're looking at here, is kind of like a pyramid, and where everyone's aligned with the main trunk of the master plan. So this is a great first step, and I look forward to, or maybe not, next term for this to roll out. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carter, second time.
Did I push my button?
You had your name on.
I have nothing else to say, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other speakers, please? All in favor then, using your tablets, or opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Move to motions. Councillor Kim. We have eager people. Councillor Kim. Are you, would you like to move your motion, sir?
Motion on the table, please.
Is there a second? Do I see a second here anywhere? Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Kim, yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Ms. Jill Foster and the board for putting this forward, and I'm just really the conduit or the sponsor. And last March, the previous government promised $28 million over 3 years to create a digital public library, and then that also included $51 million over 3 years, or $17 million annually, to increase public libraries' operating budget as well. So that's not a small amount, and really the objective of the motion is to just to send a communication, let the province know, the new government, that given their current mandate to create efficiencies, we just hope as part of the library that this is not deemed one of those inefficient things, but it's quite efficient, and so we just want them to ensure that the increase in budget is not changed. And so that's essentially the spirit of the motion, and that'll be all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other speakers, please. Nobody? Well, I just, first of all, Councillor, thank you for bringing this forward. And we talked a bit or Ms. Foster talked a bit about the funding from the town of Aurora for the Aurora Public Library, and I think that we've had a great relationship. Our councils have had a great relationship with the library. So I think this speaks not only to libraries in general, but I think it recognizes that other towns don't have the wherewithal to support libraries. And it makes it even more important for provincial government assistance to those. So thank you very much for bringing that forward. Councillor Rakas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering if anyone knows what AMO is actually doing in regards to this. Does anybody know? Like, has it been on their radar at all?
It was last term, I think. Councillor Thompson, do you remember something?
Well, hopefully they can add it on as one of their priorities and advocate on our behalf in all the municipalities. So,
thank you. Using your tablets, and all in favor or opposed? That would be unanimous. Thank you very much. Councillor Gartner. Next motion is yours.
Can the whole motion be put on the screen?
Thank you. Is there a second, please, for Councillor Gartner's motion?
Can the whole motion be put on the screen?
It is. Oh, Linda, do you have the whole 9 yards there?
Is that possible?
I don't know if we have it. Maybe the overhead? Linda, can you put it on the overhead, please?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, maybe I'll just read it. Whereas the federal government has just formed Canada's first ever national housing strategy, whereas the principles of the strategy include ensuring that more Canadians have access to housing that they can afford, and empowering local communities to develop and implement local solutions to housing challenges, and whereas $13.17 billion will be invested in housing repair and renewal and rental housing, whereas projects must have a form of investment from another level of government. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that staff provide an information report to Council regarding the National Housing Strategy. When I saw this, it's just, to me, a no-brainer, and I would really look forward to what staff can find out about this. When, if you've looked at the York Region report, they're talking about lack of rental housing, lack of affordable housing, homelessness, all kinds. There's a lot of issues about housing and not having enough of affordable or even middle income housing. So I would just like to refer this to staff. My understanding is that this is going to go over several years. Of course, the sooner you get something into that level of government, the better. But it is not. It is something that can be addressed by the new council. And I would like to know, as they say, that there has to be some sort of investment from another level of government. I would like to know what that means. Does that mean a piece of land? Does it mean doing something about taxes? Does it mean perhaps partnering with the developer and giving the developer a break? But it seems to me that this is an opportunity where we can put somebody else's money where our mouth is and try and take advantage of all of the funds that can come down from the federal government to our municipality to help some of our residents. And it is true that this is a very rich municipality, and a lot of people are not worried about having homes, decent homes. But as the mayor will see on Saturday, there are people who do worry about having affordable housing. The mayor will be coming to the Aurora Village Co-op to celebrate a mortgage burning after 35 years of extremely good management. The co-op is burning their mortgage. And a co-op is an affordable form of housing. Everybody pitches in to make the co-op run. And I think the mayor, and I believe an invitation has gone out to all of council, I think you will be quite impressed with the community that exists there and the quality of the people that exist there. They just need they just can't afford to pay some of the rents in Aurora. And that's quite a common situation. People are moving out of Aurora because they can't afford housing here. So through you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. CAO, can this be left, well, whose hands would this be left in? And what kind of a timeline could we, without pushing it, what kind of a timeline could we anticipate for having some sort of report coming back on what Aurora could actually do to take advantage of this money?
Okay, Councillor, I'll ask the CEO to answer, and then I'm going to go to, your time is up, so I'm going to go to the other list, and I'll come back.
Certainly.
To you. Sir.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, typically housing isn't an area that is looked after by the lower tier, but we'll assign someone to gather the information and get an information report to council as soon as possible. I'd also like, though, to consult with the region, since that is the most appropriate level of government to move any action forward on our behalf. But we'll consult with them as well and make sure that their thoughts are included in the information report.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Perry. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, for context, I thought it was important to note that this was something that the FCM fought for many years. It was announced in November of 2017. Minister Jean-Yves Duclos, who was the minister at the time, who had the portfolio, came and presented to the FCM board and made the announcement. It was a great announcement for all municipalities across Canada. But as Mr. Nadarozny has stated, this type of development is typically taken on by Housing New York, I believe the organization is called. So if only we had some property, let's say on Mavernack, where we could have told Housing York that we wanted to have developed for affordable housing, that would have been great. It would have put us on the map. But from a lower tiers perspective, I would say that likely, yes, us having land available and informing Housing York that the land is available would be the route to go. And that's the way we can work on a partnership from that perspective. And then from there as well, we could work with a developer for further public-private partnership. But hopefully, we'll read all of that in a report when it comes to council.
Councillor Thompson.
Just, it's a little premature, but I know in the regional report there was a number of references to the region's 10-year plan, the housing solutions and so forth, another piece about rental incentives and so forth. So I guess, to me it's assumed, but I got to think that the development of the region's plans are going to incorporate somewhat and align with this national housing strategy. So I don't know if you can just sort of add a few words to what the region's doing since this has come out, or how they're approaching it.
and you did refer to the regional report, so there's the draft, let me get that, the draft rental housing incentive guidelines, there's tax equivalent grants, so the region's working on that. The best example of that would be 212 Davis, which is an entirely rental building, the first purpose-built rental unit in York Region in, I can't remember how many years. So the region is actively working towards that. It is a challenge, there's no question, because you have to develop the partnerships. And if council will recall, there was an application that came forward in Aurora, seems like forever ago, Mr. Middle, where there's a portion of the units in that that would go in a deal to Housing York, it would go back into the social housing pool. So we are working towards that.
Great, thank you very much.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, this is, I think, a very great initiative. And to your point there, you know, Caruso Gardens was sort of how I was introduced to coming to Aurora. A girlfriend of mine, best friend of mine, moved from Weston and Finch to a beautiful town called Aurora back in 1992, and was a resident there. And it was amazing, beautiful concept, absolutely pride of ownership, and everyone was in it together. So absolutely looking forward to that. And this is something we need to absolutely get involved with. So thanks. Just want to mention that.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I can't put my hand on it, but I will, or my eye on it rather. But I think one of the levels of government targeted is municipal. So it's I don't think it's totally under regional purview. If it is.
Councillor Perry?
Just to clarify, regional governments are municipal governments. There's an upper tier and a lower tier, but they're both. Okay.
But I mean, I think they're also targeting, I could be wrong, I will find out, but partnerships with municipalities. So I will find out about that. But with respect to the regional reports, I haven't seen anything over since Councillor Perry said that this was approved. I haven't seen anything in the regional reports talking about this. So perhaps, Mr. Mayor, that's something that you'd like to follow up on. I mean, I read them pretty carefully, and I'm interested in housing, and maybe I've missed it, or maybe they don't talk about it. But I would like to know what, if the region does have plans to take advantage of this. I would like to know exactly what that is, or if they don't know at the moment, what they're doing to come up with a way to use this money. It's a lot of money.
Indeed, it is. Mr. CAO.
To you, Mr. Mayor, if I might, quite often the municipal governments are reluctant to be the first ones to jump at any of these opportunities because the position has generally been that this should be driven by the federal and provincial governments first and foremost, and with the understanding that the municipalities, regional or county governments, those sort of things will play a role, but they tend to want they don't want to, so for example, they don't want to match funds with the Canadian government. They want to put in 1/3 funds and get 1/3 from the province and 1/3 from the federal government. So in my previous experience, municipalities have mostly waited for the feds and the province to get their partnership together first, and then the municipalities have come to the table after in terms of concrete specific actions that they'll do to support the efforts of the two other levels of government.
Thank you. That's a good answer. I don't remember also ever reading in the York Region Council highlights anything about cooperative housing. And I could be wrong on that, but I would like to know about that because it's a very sustainable form of housing.
Seeing no other speakers, using your tablets, please. Carries unanimously. Thank you. And speaking of the regional report. Councillor Thompson, move that. Thank you. Second. Councillor Tom, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. I noticed in the regional report there was a conversation, there's a piece in there about an interim solution as a result of Upper York sewage and capacity, and so through you to, perhaps I can talk to Mr. Ramuno, just perhaps you can expand on it, but also one of the questions I had was, it says that Regional Council authorized staff to assign capacity of 10,500 persons to the town of Aurora, Newmarket, and East Gwillimbury. Just for clarification, is that 10,500 each or to be shared between the three? And, you know, from your estimation, this assignment, how many years are we talking about?
Mr. Ramuno, please.
Certainly. Through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor, the good news is that assignment at 10,500 was divvied up amongst the three municipalities, but the majority of that is coming to Aurora and Newmarket. Don't have the report in front of me, but identified, I believe we're getting an additional 2,200 persons or 2,400 persons immediately to Aurora. You add that to what we have existing left in our allocation bank of about 1,700. It brings us up to around 4,000 persons equivalent, which gives us at least a 3-4 year supply of capacity to allocate to new development. So it puts us back in a good position, because previously, you know, we had less than a year's supplies worth. So it is good news for Aurora and Newmarket.
Perfect, thank you. And then my other question, I noticed, sorry, if I may, a second one, is
please.
that I noticed that Stouffville GO corridors move forward with the whistle cessation. And so one of the questions we had around the table when whistle cessation was talked about here was about liability. So does that mean that the region of York has assumed the liability around that, or?
Local municipality.
Stouffville assumed the municipality?
Well, it's actually Markham. It's the Stouffville corridor, but it's the town of Markham.
Oh, sorry, yes.
City of Markham, excuse me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going back to the first topic that Councillor Thompson asked the question on, does this mean that we will have enough sewage capacity for all of the new development in the 2C area?
That's already allocated, Mr. Ramuno?
Through Mr. Mayor, that's correct. No, 2C is already allocated.
Okay.
This will provide us with the allocation that we need to move forward with respect to any downtown promenade redevelopment in other parcels that we're dealing with. So it gives us another 3-4 year supply, and we're hoping at that point there may be some additional supply coming from from the region until the Upper York system is put in place ultimately.
Thank you. And there's a big development proposed for the southeast corner of Wellington and Bayview. Does it include that, or will that have to wait for more capacity?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so this additional capacity, it's up to, you know, as council is aware, it's up to council to allocate at the development approval stage. So none of that capacity has been committed. It's back into our pool of allocation. And so when I bring a report to council at a future date on any given development application, one of the recommendations in a resolution from council will be to also allocate its specific water and surfacing capacity to that development. So that's, you know, that policy hasn't changed. So we just have this additional allocation in our pool to deal with moving forward.
Thank you. Follow up. How many units have we set aside for the intensification of the transit corridor on Yonge Street?
To you, Mr. Mayor. So originally we had about 1,000 persons equivalent within our intensification corridor. That's obviously been reduced slightly. I think we're down to, you know, about 500 or 600. So what we'll do is we'll top that back up, and then any future reports we'll have a discussion with council whether we want to increase that or not. But again, it's at council's discretion to allocate at the approval stage.
Thank you. And when do you, follow up again, when do you expect the intensification targets are going to, for the York Region official plan, are going to be known?
Mr. Ramuno?
So you know, provincial growth numbers out, but the region is still working on their OP update, and I don't think we'll see anything from them until probably late this fall or early in 2019. They're scheduling a draft regional OP for their regional council consideration sometime in 2019.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Using your tablets, all in favor of receipt, please. Councillor Peary, I think I start with you this time on new business. Nothing? Thank you. Councillor Kim?
I have one item through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno. We have been having conversations regarding accessibility parking and the design of Library Square, and I just wanted to get an update, and just also to update everyone else in council, because this is still, you know, evolving in terms of this. We're tweaking the designs, and so I brought it forward to Mr. Ramuno whether we can increase the accessibility and maybe the positioning. And you had mentioned that we can now have 3 accessibility parking spots in the square. And can you also speak to the potential of the perpendicular option? We were talking about the grade and, you know, the possibility of that.
Mr. Ramuno?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the most recent Library Square plan that Council saw identified 2 accessible spaces just south of that North Lane. I had a discussion with the architect. There is a possibility, without changing the design much, by including 3 in that general location, just to the west of the drop-off and pickup area. What we also did identify and made mention that those 10 spaces, parking spaces that were parallel along that north lane on the north side of the library, those could be identified as, you know, accessible or special need spaces. And I think what we also mentioned, even though it didn't really show up on that design concept, the plan, that there are 7 parking spaces on street, Yonge Street, in front of the library, and there's another opportunity to identify all or some of those as accessible spaces as well. As Council is aware, there's a ramp at the Yonge Street entrance to the library. So, when we do bring a final plan back to Council, that, what you will see is more than just those 3 spaces in front of the library. There could be additional spaces designated along the laneway and on Yonge Street.
How about the perpendicular option?
The perpendicular option of bringing those spaces, those existing 3 spaces that were identified, or the 2 further south, a little closer to the front entrance of the library on the east side, is problematic with respect to working with the grade. We are then now encroaching into the bowl of the library square itself, because we've got to get a pedestrian walkway from the north parking lot down. So I think the best option is to have the design of those 2 or 3 spaces in that location as configured on the latest plan that Council saw, but there's obviously the possibility of designating additional spaces along the laneway and on Yonge Street in front of the library.
Councillor?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Tom? Nothing. Councillor Humphreys, new business. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner, new business.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week it was mentioned that there wanted to be a motion for the updated design of Library Square to come back to the Accessibility Advisory Committee, but that got lost in the shuffle, so I would like to make that motion.
I'm sorry, again, please?
Councillor Abel was talking about any further designs for Library Square to come back to the Accessibility Advisory Committee.
Mr. CAO.
Through Mr. Mayor, I believe this relates to the interior design of the proposed building.
Okay, so he wasn't talking about the square, he was talking about the
So the square has been to the square has been, so I guess I won't speak for the councillor, but the square has been to the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and but I believe the reference was to the fact that the actual building itself, which hasn't been designed enough yet to bring it, well, like, isn't at a stage yet. So, but our intention is to bring that to accessibility as well, once we get to that stage of the planning.
Thank you. That's not what I understood, so I'll just leave it till September and he can do that himself. I've asked for the emails that have been sent to the planning department, pro and con, changing the zoning bylaw, which is a bit of a, I don't know if red herring is the right word, but I mean, according to our official plan, we do have to update our zoning bylaw. But I thought they would be interesting not only to see the percentage, but also to see what the specific concerns are. Mr. Muno, you were going to provide that?
Mr. Muno?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, and we are just putting those together. I just want to clarify that I believe council has all the comments that have come in from residents via email. A lot of them came directly to council. Some did not go to council, but were sent to me or planning staff, and I then sent those to council. But I can certainly, we're working on putting together a package, photocopying those, and if council wishes, I could distribute the those copies once again to council, so you have a complete package of all those emails that have been received. And most of them, I think, are emails rather than letters, so the majority are all emails.
Thank you, Mr. Muno.
Thank you. Well, I would like to have that. I don't know about the rest of the council. And are any of them phone calls?
Mr. Muno?
No, I mean, there have been some calls that we've taken staff, and even discussions at the counter and at the various public meetings. But for the record, I mean, those emails are ones that we are tracking, and we have those for the record. So I will provide those to council if they wish to receive hard copies. But I'll certainly put the package together for you, Councillor Gardner. That should be ready the end of this week.
Thank you. For the September meeting, could we have a pending list of all the things that is pending for this council that we're going to pass on to the next council, including motions? Is that planning on coming anyway? Great. I had a call about fire burning. Apparently on the long weekend there were so many fires that the fire department couldn't attend to the residents' concern. So I'm wondering, perhaps through you to Ms. Van Leeuwen, I don't know, what is the answer? I mean, we can't have so many fires going on in Aurora that the fire department can't keep up with them. So, no look on Ms. Van Leeuwen's face. Okay, I think it's something that we need to look into, or certainly Mr. CEO or Mr. Mayor, you could speak to the fire department and see if they have any comment about this, because, I mean, if you've got someone with a fire next to you or a couple of doors down, and it's, I mean, I've been there and I've seen one get out of control, and it's no fun. Thank you. Mr. Muno, could you just remind me, I wasn't clear last week, when is the sewer use bylaw coming back?
Mr. Muno?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Had a discussion with our manager, Anka, and I believe in order to have that, all the information that's required, we're looking at the new year, early January 2019, so it'll be the new council. Yeah.
So we're going to miss this pool draining season in the fall?
Okay, my apologies. You're talking about the pool discharge? Okay, no, that you'll have for September. I thought you were referring to something else.
Thank you.
That'll be September.
Thank you. Through you to, I'll say it to the CIO. Mr. CIO, we have a lot of residential streets in Aurora, and they are getting truck traffic. or maybe Ms. Van Leeuwen, they are getting truck traffic because of their location to the industrial neighborhood. So we do want to have quiet and safe streets. Can we have, can we just not have no turn signs onto those residential streets? Is there anything that's preventing us from doing that? Oh, Mr. Muno.
Well, I'll try.
Lucky you, Mr. Muno.
If it's general truck traffic, as you know, we do have our industrial parkway as a detour, but there's always going to be some truck traffic into some of the residential areas, and the reason they're going to be there is if there's any work that's occurring in those residential areas. But as you know, any new developments, we control construction access and movements, but the only truck traffic that you're going to see in some of the residential areas are if they need to be there to do any work in those areas. They don't really use those areas for, as a bypass. That's why we identify Industrial Parkway as the truck bypass through town.
Thank you, and that certainly is true that sometimes they don't use the industrial pass, but Edward is also designated as a street that for commercial vehicles, and so I'm talking about all those streets. We have the GO traffic, but south of that, there's 5 or 6 streets that could be protected with a sign, a no-turn sign. Thank you. It doesn't sound like a hard fix to me.
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it would require a bylaw amendment, and so Marco and I can work together to discover what we can bring forward.
Could that come to the September meeting? Does it?
Why don't you take that offline and discuss that with Ms. Van Leeuwen and then come up with a game plan?
Thank you. And the last one is thank you for taking that traffic counter off of Royal Road. When might it go back?
Mr. Mill?
I'm not sure if their staff's planning to place it back in September or not. I'll have to double check on that.
Okay, as long as it doesn't come back in August. Thank you.
Councilor Rackes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, developments within the town, are they still to adhere to our property standards? Or maybe that's a question for Ms. Van Leeuwen.
Mr. Ramuno? Or Ms. Van Leeuwen? Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, could you just clarify the question?
Sure. I'll get, so the Highland Gate development, there's concerns that the property standards are a little bit, they're not upholding to our standards, and so if we could go out and maybe kind of remind once again the developer that they need to keep things within a certain standard while they're not actually developing the property. Yeah.
We can certainly have a discussion. I know there was an issue about the length of grass in some of the blocks, and I know Sarah has been working with them and sending out a notice to the residents, and that was discussed at some of the earlier public consultation meetings, that the grass isn't going to receive the same level of maintenance that it had when it was a golf course. Some of it will be left in its natural state, but there will be some grass trimming. So we're having those discussions with Geranium, and a notice will be sent out to the area residents in the area just to identify the future level of grass maintenance for those future park blocks. But we'll have another discussion with them, and as I've mentioned, they've always been pretty responsive to dealing with any issues as they come up.
Thank you, Mr. Romano.
And Councilor Marcus, we'll start with you with public service announcements.
Nothing right away. That comes off the top of my head.
Councillor Gardner, public service.
Don't forget the concerts in the park Wednesday nights. They're the best.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Humphreys. Don't touch it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Sorry. Yep, a couple things. Yes, Concerts in the Park Wednesdays, and they have pop-up farmers market vendors. It's been amazing. It's been really incredible. The market's loving it, and it's really, really a lot of fun. And of course, don't forget Farmers Market Saturdays, 8 to 1. We had Family Day last Saturday. It was just incredible. And the next big event, there's always great times every Saturday at the market, but the next big event is on August 18th for the Community Corn Roast. And there's a couple of other events following in September. On Friday, they have Christmas in July at the Legion, and it's from 11:30 to 1:30, and it's $15 for a ticket for a nice turkey dinner. So if you want to enjoy, that's perfect. And I know this isn't really part of announcements, Mr. Mayor, but I did get a complaint of the area of Highland Gate, but the staff was amazing and responded right away, thanks to Ms. Van Leeuwen and also to Ms. Van Camp, was really quick to respond and addressed all the issues, so thanks so much. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Tom?
No.
Councillor Kim? Councillor Perry? Thank you. Just a couple. I do want to mention, we've talked about the concerts in the park. Don't forget to take a donation for the food bank, which also is applicable to the movies in the park, which starts August the 16th. There is an open house next Tuesday night here with respect to traffic calming on Pedersen Drive, Kirk Valley Crescent, and Gateway. That's from 5 to 7:30 here at Town Hall. Multicultural Festival is coming up September the 8th. That's a ways off a bit. And the Community Services Fall Program Guide is being distributed this week in the banner. And we're riding bicycles for United Way. The CAO and I, we're going to race.
When is that?
Thursday. Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if everyone wants to, if you wanted to remind everyone about Ribfest as well, since we won't be.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I'll let you do that, but I just got one specifically. This Friday, 2 p.m. will be the end of nomination period, and we will have certified candidates for the upcoming election at that point. So just remind everyone that. On the Monday after. Sorry, Mr. Clerk, thank you for reminding me. The Monday after will be certified candidates, and we'll know exactly who will be running.
Councillor Gartner, quickly, please.
Could you just repeat what you said about the Henderson open house?
I'm sorry?
The open house for Henderson and traffic calming?
It is for Pedersen Drive.
Okay.
Traffic calming, Pedersen Drive, Kirk Valley Crescent, Gateway Drive.
And it's
next Tuesday?
Tuesday.
5 to 7:30 here.
Thank you.
And Councillor Marcus, thank you. Ribfest is 24th, 25th, 26th. Rick Emmett's playing Friday night. Platinum Blonde's playing on Saturday night. And Sunday is the rib tasting contest, the best part. Council, we have 13 bylaws. I'm going to go to, okay, hold on, we're almost done. I'm going to go to Councillor, I'm going to go to the clerk for bylaw B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll actually ask you to turn over to the town solicitor who will just explain that.
Ms. DeSerio.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the existing site plan from 1995 was amended to give the Director of Planning the authority to approve and amend site plan applications that were minor in nature. Unfortunately, the proposed bylaw that we have on the agenda today removes that right. I didn't intend to do that. It only gives him the right in the stable neighborhoods, but we need him to have the ability to do that for minor applications in all of the site plan control area. So I'm proposing to amend the bylaw. Do you have that? Okay. I can read it.
So do you need an amendment?
Sorry?
Do you need an amendment?
Well, to me it's not passed yet. So do we need an amendment?
Yeah, or we can, if a friendly amendment, we can pass the bylaw as amended.
Friendly amendment then, please? Thank you.
So I'll be making a friendly amendment? Oh, no? Okay.
This would be the...
Okay. Someone put that on the floor then? We'll vote on this separately. Councillor Perry, thank you. Second. Councillor Tom, to this, Councillor Gartner, do you want to speak to this item? Tablets or hand? Tablet, please. All in favor of bylaw B? That passed. Thank you very much. Councillor Gartner, you want a bylaw pulled separately?
Yes, please. Could you pull E and K for separate vote? And I have a question on J. You want to pull J? Okay.
E?
E,
so pull,
J, and K, please.
Pull E separately, please. Can you put that on the floor for me? Councillor Beery, Councillor Tom? Yeah. E. Bearer Group. Councillor Gartner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't wish to speak to it. I just wish to vote against it.
Thank you.
It's the Bear Group, the development on Young, west side, south of Tyler.
Okay, using the tablets, please. Bylaw number E. All those in favor, all those contrary. Bylaw J. Put that on the floor. Councilor Marcus. Second.
What?
Councilor Thompson. Speakers to bylaw J. Councilor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually wanted to make an amendment to this bylaw to, it's not the correct one in front of us, but J is in regards to the vacant building bylaw. I'd like to make an amendment that this be exempted from our warrant policy, the pilot policy that we've put forward, so that therefore our staff can deal with vacant buildings within the power of entry that the province legislates.
I'll just go to our bylaw chief.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would propose that we make an amendment to the protocol that it does not apply to vacant buildings that are registered.
That's fine.
Since it's a one-year pilot.
Councillor Tom?
What's being amended? The bylaw or the?
Councillor Marcus?
No, what I'm asking to be amended is so that vacant buildings, vacant properties would not have, staff would not have to go get a warrant to enter onto a vacant property, a property that is deemed vacant.
Just a sec here. Is there do we understand what the amendment that's being requested? Is there a second, please? If you wish to speak to it, that's fine. Is there a second? Councillor Gartner, thank you. Anyone wish to speak to the amendment? Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If Councillor Marcus can just clarify in terms of what's the definition of being vacant?
I'll go to Ms. Van Loon, please.
There is a definition of vacant building in the bylaw, the proposed bylaw, which means any building that is or appears to be vacant, partially vacant, or unoccupied, or that by reason of its unfinished or dilapidated condition appears to be in a state such that there is little or no control over unauthorized entry, but does not include a dwelling unit occupied by the owner on a seasonal basis, but otherwise maintained throughout the year and kept compliant with all applicable statutes, regulations, and town bylaws, including the property standards bylaws, as amended or replaced from time to time.
Okay, that's enough.
Okay. Sorry, it's long.
Thank you.
Does everybody understand what the amendment is? Ms. Van Loon, are you okay with that amendment? Does that allow you to do what you need to do?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Tom?
So we're passing the bylaw tonight.
Right now, we're doing the amendment.
No, thank you. I understand that, but this amendment is going to be inserted into which section of the bylaw? The bylaw, are we amending the standard operating guidelines? Yeah, but we're not amending that bylaw because that would have to come back to council for ratification. I mean, this just seems like a fairly large procedure to undertake, and we're talking about a new business. So I just don't. So what part of the bylaw will be? Which bylaw will be amended? Which section? Which part? We typically get reports for this kind of stuff, so I'd just like to know. It doesn't seem like anyone has the answer, so I'll be voting against it. I don't think it's proper.
Ms. Sandlin?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, what we would undertake to do if this amendment is carried is exempt the right onto private property standard operating guideline to allow officers to enter onto properties that are deemed to be vacant in accordance with the new bylaw.
Thank you, I appreciate that, but what opportunity for remonstrance from the public do we afford anyone who owns property who may wish to look into this item when we are just amending a new business? Or not even new business, sorry, at the passing of a bylaw, a separate bylaw. So this really doesn't have anything to do with this bylaw. Right, you're amending another bylaw during bylaws. It seems peculiar to me. I don't think it's correct. And again, there's no opportunity for remonstrance from the public, so I'm voting against it.
Councillor Perry.
Just taking a step back. So, as part of this bylaw, we are mandating that whomever is deemed to have a vacant building enters into an agreement with the municipality.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a requirement that they register the property with the municipality, and there is an application process in which we would ask for certain information in terms of insurance, possibly a report in terms of the state of the building, those maintenance agreement, those types of things.
And so would this amendment apply to only those who have gone through that process, or would it apply to all vacant buildings?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would apply it to all buildings that we have deemed to be vacant. Once we deem them to be vacant, we will be notifying owners of the proposed bylaw that's before you tonight in terms of their requirement to register the property and follow through with the application and registry process.
So I guess I'm fine with not seeking a warrant in this circumstance. I'm having a hard time justifying how some people can be in favor of property rights and not letting somebody onto your property in one circumstance, but if the property is deemed vacant, then you think it's okay to forego somebody's property rights. It's just, I'm fine with this because it's my position that we shouldn't be going to get a warrant all the way through. I don't understand the consistency of thought on that.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Through to Ms. Van Leeuwen, just so I'm understanding, similar to Councillor Toms. So on page 7, section 8, it talks about the powers of entry. But your recommendation is that we're not making an amendment to this particular part of the bylaw. You're asking us to make an amendment to a different document, which is essentially the operating guidelines, which is not before us. Yeah, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's my recommendation, because the standard operating guideline, if you recall, was a one-year pilot in which I will be reporting back with information and recommendations on its continuance of practice. And depending on what happens there, we may have to come back and amend this bylaw. So we prefer not to amend the bylaw. I think it's a better process if we amend the standard operating guideline.
And I agree with that. But I guess then I'm going to turn to the clerk and say, can we have an amendment on a document that's not before us? when we're dealing with a bylaw that doesn't speak to the standard operating guidelines? I just want to know if this is in order.
Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's certainly not normal. I think as Councillor Tom has identified, I can't think of anything that stops it. So in this case, I would defer to the chair for his call. But yeah, so I just can't find a reason that it wouldn't be in order.
Just wanted to confirm that. That's great. Thank you.
So I would then ask Ms. Van Leeuwen, is there time sensitivity around this?
If I could get clarification, the passing of this bylaw?
Passing of this particular bylaw tonight.
It's not really time sensitive, other than it would help us address some of the vacant properties and buildings that we have within town, and we've been maintaining a list. We have probably about 60 properties right now that are on the list, and they're not being maintained. So we're hoping that this bylaw would provide us with some tools to deal with vacant properties.
But the point is, should not the other bylaw, I hear some council's concern, should the other bylaw not be in front of us so we can look at that as well? So my other question then is, if this was postponed until September, could we deal with it? We would be allowed to deal with it. I see Mr. Serio agreeing that we could deal with it. So the question is, what are the negative ramifications?
To be clear, the other document is not a bylaw. It's a standard operating guideline.
Okay, thank you. My apologies. Want to speak? Mr. CAO.
To you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just wondering if would it be better to pass the bylaw and come back with the standard operating procedure in September? That way, at least you've got some tools at your disposal right away to start dealing with vacant properties, and the only barrier would be when we want access, and we could clean that up in September.
Councillor Gartner, Councillor Tom.
Interesting discussion. Ms. Van Leeuwen, would this also prevent, let's say somebody has left the gas on and there's a gas leak, would this also prevent possible safety issues from happening?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it should assist in all matters related to vacant buildings. Yes, it gives us the authority to ask for documents, to ask for other, inspections by qualified people. Like there's a number of things, and we've left it fairly open so that we have the tools necessary to deal with the situations.
Thank you. And what would happen if we found that, or there was a report that people were using the building that shouldn't be using the building?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, well, that would be unauthorized entry, and we would contact police and we would deal with those situations, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Tom, we're still on the amendment, by the way.
Well, because I'm going to raise a point of order, I want to just wait my turn, but I'd just like a formal ruling from the chair. I think this is out of order, and I'd like your ruling on it, please.
I would tend to agree, actually, that we shouldn't be, if it's not in front of us, we shouldn't be discussing it.
So just take the amendment off then.
Take the amendment off, I would suggest. Just go back to the bylaw as is. All in favor? Any other comments on the bylaw? All in favor then, or against?
So we'll take it as direction to come back in September.
Yep. Okay. We'll put. Thank you. Bylaw K. Councillor Gartner. So first of all, we need a mover, please. Someone moving it? Councillor Gardner, are you moving it? I'm sorry? Are you moving K?
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a second? Who's that? Councillor Perry? Comments or questions? All in favor? Using your tablets, please. Are there other bylaws that anybody wishes to be pulled separately? Councillor Gardner.
F and G, please. They can be pulled together.
Thank you. Someone put bylaw F on the floor, please. Official plan amendment number 18. Someone put that on the floor, please. Councillor Perry.
I'll make that motion on F and G. That's what she said. Yeah.
F and G together?
That's what Councillor Turner said.
Yeah.
Do you want them pulled separately or together?
They can go together. Their properties, Yonge Street South, OP8.
Hold it. They haven't.
34.
I'm just asking if you want them separately or together.
Together is fine.
Thank you. Is there a second, please? Councillor, we've already moved them. So you can't second your own.
No, I moved it.
Were you moving them? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm not moving them.
Quit
You're
confusing
confusing me.
Okay, we're going to do separately. We're going to do
them.
F. We're going to do F for Fred. Councillor Perry, you moving F? It's easier. Sure. Thank you. Councillor Humphreys, second. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. This is property on Yonge Street South, OPA 34. I'm against the development.
Thank you. If there's no more speakers, using your tabs, please. All in favor or against F? Item G, Dormer Hill. Mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Perry. Second. Councillor Thompson, thank you. Speakers to G. Councillor Gardner.
Same comment, Mr. Mayor. Property on the Oak Ridge Moraine, Yonge Street South, OPA 34. I'm against the development.
Thank you. Using your tablets, please. Okay, would someone put the remaining bylaws on the floor, please? Councillor Tom, thank you. Councillor Gardner seconding it. All in favor, please. Opposed, using your tablets, please.
Oh.
Thank you. They all pass. Confirming bylaw, please. Councillor Perry, Councillor Kim. All in favor? All against? Carries. Motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Tom, Councillor Humphreys, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Not
Staff.
funny. That's not funny what he just did. What? Oh, he was saying, like he was